kind of open up a little bits and bobs out of the bag. There's always a bit of trash around. For me, I like to use something that I can. There you go. One of the wires that we got from earlier in the builds. I'll just grab one of these, and I'm gonna pre-goop with some flux right onto these pads. I guess I got to try to figure out. My first step is always to figure out which ones I want to use. I like to leave myself the extra cable, so that if I do want to go to the 6-inch arms, I can do that. And then I want to remember that, you know, coming in from the rear of the drone, coming in from the rear side of the drone, I want to make sure that I've got the ability to bring in the main power leads. So we're just going to pull these out so that we can kind of get our plan going. These are going to go in here to this effect. So I want to get my wires out of the way. I've really only got that 5mm standoff height to work with, so I don't want to lay cables over cables like that. That's just a terrible design, terrible layout, and it's going to cause me problems. I don't want to have to redo everything. So as far as planning goes, the most important here is that we just kind of keep everything like that. If I've got those wires there, these wires there, I can still come right down the center and get my 2 main battery leads off the back. So that's just where I'm thinking, what I'm thinking. I could always shorten these leads up. Those of us that are crazy about grams and weight, you know, definitely feel free. Chop that, bring it in closer. I'm just not going to do it this time, but you know, it's a thing. Feel free to do it. I'm going to put that there so that I can slide my arms back out to the 6-inch should I care to do so. And I want to be able to do that with this unit. I'm just going to take it one at a time. I'm going to just kind of pre-goo a little bit of this guy. And then as far as the negative lead goes, ground, negative, whatever, he's going to fit right about there, so that kind of limits me as to where I can go. But I like to just kind of line them up before I mess around with it. Make sure I know what I'm planning on doing. The one thing we didn't do on this is put the tape underneath. A lot of times what we've started to do when we're doing our builds is we start putting electrical tape underneath this board, so that should you have any problems with excessive soldering, it's going to not touch the carbon fibre, and it's going to have a surface to catch on. There you go. That's the problem. You don't want that electrical current conducting into the frame that will short out. But I'm comfortable enough with my soldering skills now that I've done a couple of these that I'm going to risk it for a biscuit, and we're just going to go and pre-tin these guys. Just warm the pad up. You don't ever want to do a cold solder, so get that going. And I'm pretty careful about the way I do it. I'll start out and I'll just do it in a donut shape. I don't want to fill the center in. That would be, to me, just a sloppy job. And I'm not a perfectionist, but I do want to make sure that I'm soldering where I need to be soldering only. So I get a nice pre-tin going on here. One of the trickiest parts of this part of the job is not touching your soldering iron against any of these plastic standoffs. A fair amount of the time I do that, and it's a pain in the butt. So a trick, you can go back in your bag and you can get some of your other standoffs. So you've got some spare 10mm standoffs. To get this stuff out of your way, you don't want to lose the screw in the bottom. So you can take these 4 off at this point, and you can put the 10mm screws on, so the 10mm standoffs on, and now you've got so much more vertical space to play with. I really like doing it. I'm going to risk it, and I'm going to laugh at myself when I melt one of those standoffs, because I think I've done it almost every single time on my build. Yeah, it's a nightmare, but you know, you're worried about so many other things that all of a sudden you're just like, pfft. It doesn't matter if it's the shaft or the tip, but whatever it is, it's going to melt that plastic nylon. Just for you, Dave. Just for you. Alright, let's go. Let's do the next one of these that I'd pre-decided upon. Sweet. Alright, that's enough for that. Now I'm just going to... Fortunately, from the manufacturer, these wires are already pre-tinned. Because I've got some play with the red one, I'm going to do the shortest one first. And I'm always going to try to think about that so I don't have to redo, undo. When you lay things out, it'll kind of come to you. You'll be like, oh yeah, that's what you need to do. So I give that one a bit of a pull, bit of a yank. Not really that good this way round, but occasionally you've got to be able to swap hands and do the job on the other side. Every now and then you just need your fingers. I kind of want a certain angle on this wire, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of get this wire and I'm going to bend it down a little bit to just give me that turn that I'm looking for to help me push the wire down onto the pad. Let's get going again on this. A little bit of solder on the tip of this guy. And there we go. We'll warm up the wire. I like to warm the wire up first. Sometimes that can take a little longer. Get that fresh solder, really getting that wire nice and warm. And then we get the pad heated up. Now I'm touching both at the same time. And then I pull the solder iron out and I just push that down. Hold it on, let that go. Got a pretty good joint right there. Nothing wrong with that. Everything's on pretty solid. Thankfully I didn't make the cock up, and there is, there's a negative there. We go into the ground negative. I'll use those interchangeably. Cool, pretty stoked. Didn't need to put that back down. Haven't melted a standoff yet. And we'll get the next one going. Pre-tin the tip again. Let's do the wire. Balls.
When you move that camera, it's going to refocus it.
Okay.
It's almost got it.
Is it trying to get my hands? Is that the problem?
I think so. I think it's getting everything around.
Let me get my digits out of the way. Yeah, that's the problem. If my hands go in the way, it's kind of missing it, isn't it? No, yeah, you're right there. Let's see if we can't play with that. Get that tighter frame might encourage it. Nope, zero focus. Come on, son. Oh, this is going to get interesting. No way. Doesn't want to take it. Alright, let's try this. It's almost as good as you're going to get, isn't it? It's ready to focus on my fingers. Kind of wish I could manually focus this guy. I'll put the soldering iron down before I burn myself. Let's try it from a different angle and see if it wants to do it that way. It's going to make soldering well hard from here. As soon as I pull my hand out, it's like, oh, focus on the table. What's moving? Come on, focus, you git. No, that's crap, isn't it?
We're gonna get this.
Good shout out though. We've got to fix that.
I mean, you can still see. It's just.
It was no good, was it?
Yeah,
It's kind of out of focus.
That's not what it needs to be.
Jesus. Hang on. Get me a wire going. I wonder if it's the amount of reflection too. Ah, yes. And for safety, we're going towards where these when we solder. Ooh, best practices. I'm full of them. Alright, I'm back. Alright guys, well the focus is the focus. We're going to have to just keep kind of trying to develop that and see what we can do. You're going to get the idea. You don't need to be able to read these tiny little letters on here anyway. So we'll just kind of keep going. Right, playing around with the next one. Same kind of idea. This one won't be a hassle. I'll be able to pull that out of the way. This one's kind of got a shorter problem. You know what, actually thinking about it, I wouldn't even be able to pull that back for the 10mm. What I'd actually have to do is bring this guy back over here. So, based on that, before some smart person just calls me out and goes, dude, you've just done yourself in anyway. I'm just going to undo it. I'm going to undo this. It's not a big deal. Bad. The coolest thing is that obviously it doesn't matter where you go for any of these connection points. As long as they're out of the way, this guy, I'm actually going to just thread him under there so he stays out of the way for that main wire, and I'm going to come right back over here because that will allow me, I believe, the 10mm of uncoiling right there, should I care to go to the 10mm. Whoop, almost burnt the standoff. Almost did it, Dave.
Easy to do.
I almost earned that mark right then. Damn it. I touched it. Okay, I'm just going to hold that on, get it nice and set, then off we go. Not my finest work, but I'm pretty happy about that because I got it really hot on the bottom side, so the top looks a bit shit but the bottom's really good. Okay, yeah, I'm happy about that. That would give me the 10mm pull that I'm looking for. And there's nothing to say that these have got to go to the centre, obviously. Everything can be wherever you need it to be. The most important thing with what I'm trying to accomplish is the fact that these can move at the end of the day. So I think one of the things I'm actually going to do on this build, because even if I do that, hang on, am I going to get the 10mm? It's not really 10mm, is it? So I'm going to come over here, and then those main wires can just, you know, one can go a little further up there and the other one can come wherever else I fancy. Easy fix. On the fly. Let me just have a second guess on that one. If I'm there, can the wire stretch another 10mm? It's not really 10mm, is it? That'd be shit, that would. But that would definitely allow me to have the 10mm. Okay, I'm going there. Done. Nope. I'll flux that first. Get a little flux on there. back to my good hand, being a lefty. A tad more accurate. Ah, bloody hell, I've touched that one. That was a quick touch, that one. I've got away with it. Decent amount of flux. I mean solder. Gonna have to sleep more. I think it might be. 4 hours doesn't do it. Solid hot joint right there. Pretty happy about that one. Now let's see where I've left myself with this black wire. What are we going to do with that one? Probably should have thought about it a tad earlier, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to be fine still. I'm just going to come up underneath, so I've still got the flexibility of the movement that I'm really looking for at the end of the day, and I'm going to go onto that first pad right there so that that can stretch back out, because if I pull that wire all the way out, I've got plenty. I've got the 10mm that I'm really looking for if I'm going with that. So there you go. I'm going to do that there. Not the prettiest build I've ever done, but functional. That's a lot more than I really wanted with the flux, so I'm just going to go real light. That going there. Time to clean the tip. Keep that clean. Don't mess around with that stuff. It. Let's have a go at this wire. Again, I'm going to put a bit of a turn on that so I can really kind of push it down onto the pad without much problem. Both surfaces nice and hot, touch them together. Push it down, do a shove, done. There we go. Alright, half of that's done. Move on to the other side. I don't have to worry too much about the other side. There's a lot more flexibility as to where you can come anywhere over here. We've got a couple of things that we're going to be bringing power off of this going up to the nays, and then power somewhere off of here going forwards to the voltage regulators. So we've got some play. I think I'm just going to try to put that one there so that I can pull the arms out if needed. I'm going to put this one somewhere here so that I can really get this out of the way and get this one really where I need to be able to have that play in the arms. That should work. And then again over here I'll probably just come like that. So I got some space, I got some area I can move around, get the flux going. Again, I still do have to worry about not crossing too many wires coming through here, because we've still only got the 5mm to play with, but because we don't have one of the larger battery leads to mess around with. There's a lot more forgiveness in this section than there is the other side. Okay, that will do. Smear a bit of that stuff on. Just your regular flux, paste flux. Let's pre-tin all these guys. Drag those wires out of the way for a second. Of course, you can be excessive at this point, but there's no need. Just get what you need. Build it up just a little bit. That's plenty. Pretty much just putting like a half donut on these contact pads. I see people go nuts with this, and it's ridiculous. You don't need to do it. Making a mess. Alright, there we go. 4 pads, easy enough. Let's get these wires stuck. That one's going to go on pretty well. Pretty comfortable about that. Have the wire nice and hot. Back down on the pad. That is just perfect. There we go. Moving that around a bit. That's a bit of bollocks. Sorry about that. There we go. Push it down. Set pretty good. Good enough. Next. Dave, you may have given me one too many bourbons this evening. Come on, son. Here we go. Thanks. It's really awkward for me, but I'll manage.
It's like breaking
Yeah. Hello. No, I can work with it. It's not bad actually. Keep the tip clean. If you get goo on the tip, you might cut something.
Let's get it right
there. Oh, there it is, guys. There it is. It's happened. There's the black from the standoff right there on the side of the soldering iron. Because I changed my angle. Decided not to think about that for a moment. Balls. Whatever. It's okay. It hasn't wrecked the standoff, but you know, one of the things that we are kind of moving towards, we've been doing a lot of testing with the aluminium standoffs, and it looks like we're going to be going to some of those soon. So there'll be some movement. Always product improvement as you go. Do the best you can, right, with what you get. But we were concerned that they would start causing breaks in different areas of the frame where we really couldn't afford a break. So we went with the nylon, and yeah, I think most of our new tests have proven that the aluminium is going to be just fine. And then you won't melt the aluminium, but if you do heat it up accidentally and then put your hand on it, it might sting a little. Okay, I'm happy with that, I think. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Right, there we go. So that is the ESC's motor wires onto the power distribution board with enough play that I should be able to just undo the two screws, slide the arms out. Now I can fix 6-inch props on my arms. Again, it's not a problem for me. I'm really just focusing right now on some 5-inch bullnose or some 5x4x3 props. So I kind of want to go with the shorter, more centralized arm design for this. Alright, not too shabby. Next we're going to prep out this guy right here. Prep this wire up. We're going to get a couple of components out. Need that one. And some of the heat shrink, 2 20mm sections of what we call 16mm wide heat shrink. Now, to check diameter of heat shrink as to how the industry or how you can buy it is a bit too difficult, so we found a method to be able to push it flat underneath. Can't see. To be able to push it flat underneath a ruler, and we call that 16mm because, as you can count, that is 16mm. So that's the stuff I'm looking for. And I need 2 20mm sections of it, so I'm pretty sure that's going to be this guy chopped in half. Nope. Is not, so I'm going to have some left over. That's kind of cool. You always got to be careful with that. Make sure you do your measurements. We give exact measurements of this stuff in the kit on purpose, so that you can get every single step done as it's meant to be. There we go. 1. Ow. 2. That was my finger. I don't need. Plop it back in the bag. The other thing we're going to want at this point is a little zip tie. As you can see, there's a whole selection in the bag. We're going to take one of the tiny ones. They work the best for this job. This braided nylon, as you can see, it kind of frays at the end. It's an amazing product. It's really well needed for this. But you know, you've got to kind of control the fray. Let's see if I can't show you a trick or two with this part. Kind of crush that down, stuff that in there. There we go. Slide one on. Pop that out. Crush that down. Stuff it in there. Alright, so I'm going to start out the job like this, and I'm going to come back with the wires. Just start feeding them right down the middle of that braid. And that's easy enough. It's the right size for the job. It can get a little tricky, and if it does, if your braid ever gets stuck, just start scrunching it up on itself like that, and that becomes really helpful. Makes the life easier. Alright. So we're going to run this all the way up to the end. I guess we can just kind of pull it that way now. I'm going to run that all the way up to the battery, and I am going to pull that back just a tiny bit. We don't need it to go all the way to the end, but what I do want to do is I want to get a zip tie around here. I don't want to mess with any of the soldering job. I don't want to weaken any of those connections, so I'm not going to zip tie around the very end, because that would obviously do some damage when I pull really tight. But what I am going to do is figure out where I can pull tight to the maximum part. I'm going to push that braid just a little beyond it. I'm going to get my zip tie. I'm pretty happy about that section right there where my nails are showing, so I'm going to start putting this on. And of course you can always slide it one way, but you can't slide it the other. So I'm going to get it to there. We'll start cinching it up, pushing it up, cinching it, pushing it, and just trying to get that really close to the edge. So that's about as good as I'm going to get. I'm pretty happy with that. Get your snips, cut the excess off, give it a good pull tight. If you've got good snips, then they actually work. Okay, and drop. And the reason we use one of the small ones is because at this point you're not going to get your 20 mil, or you're not going to get this heat shrink over one of the larger heads of a zip tie, so that's a real pain. That's why we've provided those smaller ones. I'm just going to kind of shove that over the top, move that to the end, and we're going to heat gun that on. Whilst I'm doing that, might as well work on the other end at the same time. I'm going to break the heat gun out, so I'm going to get it ready. That's fixed at this point. I don't need to do the same zip tie. The reason we do one at this end is because there's a lot of movement when you're doing batteries and undoing batteries, so we like to keep, you know, just a little something extra to keep it looking prim and proper. With this end, again, I'm going to judge it. I'm going to go around about that far. I want to keep most of this heat shrink over the nylon braid, and then I can start splitting my wires as early as I need to. But I just want to kind of, so it's, I don't know, a quarter of the way through here. Yeah, just start shrinking that up. And this is the part where you start playing around with the braid, and if you don't have the temperature control gun like I do, and you start pointing your heat gun at this thing, you're going to melt that braid into a blob of plastic, and it's not going to work out very well, and you're going to be a bit sad. As you can see by my angle, I'm kind of blowing the air away from the braid as it is, so that's a trick. Definitely do that no matter what the gun is that you're using, because I'm not trying to shrink that nylon braid. It does have a melt point, and it's not what we're using, so that works really nicely. That's got that end. Because I was just kind of messing around, I'll double check this end. I want to make sure I really get it as best I can, and then we'll start shrinking this one as well. Not much to it really, and that's kind of what you're aiming for at the end of it all. It's decent. Okay, there's technical reasons as to why we've developed this Scorpion-esque tail. Different drones have different reasons. They'll plug power straight into these boards, but through a lot of testing and development, having the flexibility on this, when the battery ejects, saves your drone. You want this to be able to go in any direction, and the battery to be able to pull in the direction that it needs. So that's the reason we've got this tail on here. It doesn't add that much weight. You know, I should probably put this on the machine and try to get a weight from it, but it's really nothing. So it doesn't add too many grams. We're really happy with the results that we've been getting from this. The blades don't touch it, the blades stay out of the way. The battery, really the way you strap the battery on, it keeps this tail out of the way of the blades. And the results, the success from seeing how the frame reacts when a battery ejects is really worth it. So I'm going to go with around about that. I can shorten these a little bit, which is nice, so I can save some length there. I'm pretty much just taking a little bit of a guess. I know that that's around about where I want my battery lead to be, so I can just pick any two of these pads, and you know, I think what I'm going to do to again, I've got to stay off the top of any of these because of that height restriction. I'm going to come in here, I'll probably turn that corner, and I'm going to go for that first pad with the red, and then just because I want to cut as much weight as I can, I'm going to turn that corner, I'm going to go for that one with the negative. So those are the two that I'm going to go for. The way that I've held this in place and kind of measured it, I'm really quite happy with that, so I might move it in just a little bit just to be cheeky and reduce that weight just as much as I possibly can. So I'm going to go for that. I'm going to put my fingers on these cables and I'm going to mark them with a fingernail just by pushing fairly hard. Now I know where to cut them. Right, I got some little marks on there. Let me get a bigger. where I marked. As you can see, they are different lengths, and that's why it's really important. You're not just going to mark it and go, oh, it's exactly the same. They're definitely different because of the lay on the board. So we shorten those, saved a few grams. Now we're just going to get this out and we're going to strip these cables. Get those bust down. Don't need too much exposed. Just about that's plenty. And then we got to do the classic. We got to pre-tin them. We got good coverage here. We got good coverage here. Don't need that. I don't like the way crocodile clips damage your wires when you start heat shrinking. So a lot of the times I'll find some little random piece of rubber and I'll put that in between the sharp teeth. But for these larger wires, you've kind of got no problem. You can just dive into the opening there and you're not really going to hurt your wire. Put that in there too quick, get a bit of flux, just dab them right in. Like I said before, not everybody uses flux. They say it causes a bit of a dirty job, but the way that your solder goes into the wire is, to me, it's so much better. So I'm a big fan, always use it. And yes, there's flux in this tin core, rosin, whatever solder that I have. I still use it. Just warm the wire up a whole bunch, one side and the other. Warm the top up and just start trying to push this in. It's going to take quite a bit, obviously, because it's quite a big wire. Pre-tin the hell out of it. Didn't really mean to come off the heat there. No big deal, just heat it back up. There you go, I got a decent amount of tin on that wire now. I'm pretty happy about that one. One of the tricks with this thinner stuff, you can just kind of fold it over on itself, fold it again, and then start twisting it. So for the same amount of distance that I'm going to push the solder on, I'm going to get loads more solder this way. Just another trick. If you don't twist it, there's the other thing. If you don't twist it enough, then you'll start like the last little bit will hit the deck, and kind of counterintuitive. Doesn't work as well. So give it a good twist. Warm it up and go. Alright, cool. That's my wires prepped. Next I want to get my pads done. A little more flux on those two connectors that I chose. We're going to get positive there. Actually got to get some on there to make that work. That's too much. Really is only a tiny amount of that you need. Now, because these wires that I'm going to be joining are obviously a bigger wire, I'm going to put more than just the semicircle of tin on these pads first. I'm actually going to put a fair bit more on. I'm going to go all the way around, almost a full circle. Again, being careful not to make a big blob in the center because I don't want it to fall through. Now I'm pretty comfortable with how I do this and how many times I've done it, so I know I'm good. But you know, for anybody that's doing this for the first time, keep looking underneath to make sure that you haven't dripped anything down, so that you're not connecting to the bottom board, because you don't want to get too far and then have to undo a whole bunch of stuff. You want to kind of monitor yourself along the way. Sorry, just got to twist my wire again. Twist it, twist it, twist it, twist it. Watch out for those uprights. Alright, my tip's pretty dirty, so make sure you monitor that. The order of process is a bit of a pain in the butt, but you got to make sure you put the right wires on in the right way, so that you're not trying to go over the top or under the wires that you've just previously done. You'll do it once or twice and you'll be like, oh yeah, I won't make that mistake again. Alright, so as you can see, I'm going a little heavy on the solder for these two pads. Those are both looking pretty good for my main connection, so I'm pretty happy with that. We'll start getting this guy wired in. Alright, so just double check, there's positive, there's negative, that's the way they're going to go. And bring some of these wires just kind of out of my way. I know that that's going to go into there, and this one's going to turn that corner. So I'm just going to kind of put a pre-bend in it. And of course, when you solder the wire and you pre-tin it, you get that the tin goes all the way down the wire, so sometimes you can't bend it as much as you previously had thought or hoped for. I've gotten away with that one really quite nicely. Pretty stoked. That could have gone the other way real quick. So with the thin wires, I really like using the tweezers. When it comes to the thicker wires, and this has obviously got a bit of weight to it, I don't want it to move, so I'm going to use some heavier duty pliers. It's not really going to make a big difference. I'm not going to pinch the wire, but it's just going to kind of hold it in place for me. And I like hanging my solder right off of the drone like you see me do. I keep like stretching it over the arm so that I've got something there to be able to go back to. Monitor the uprights. Same again, I'm going to get the wire really hot first. Get that really melty. And then I can bring it down to the pad. Melt the pad. Get that super warm. Now everything's kind of melty and hot. Now we're just going to try and push that on. Get a real nice connection going. Now this is not a connection for strength, it's just a good connection. I did fill in that center gap. I'm not worried about it. I feel like that went well. I know there's no bloop underneath. That one's done. Pretty happy about that. I've got the 5mm gap that I really need. Nothing's going to cause me a problem there. The only problem it could be is if that didn't reach. Yay, it reaches. Looks like I got lucky. Alright, clean the tip off. Let's do that again. Alright, we'll go for the wire. Pre-tinning is everything when it comes to do these jobs. If you don't pre-tin, your life's so hard when you try to get these connections on these pads. But with the pre-tinning and then pre-tinning the tip, it just goes on so nicely. Everything's ready to melt and go together, and I'm really stoked. Those went well. All the strength for the battery pulling comes from these 3 zip tie holes that we'll get to later. So although those are good joints and they're not going to go anywhere, you know, all the main pull is going to be taken down here, so the stress is taken off of those wires. Another section done. Cool. Next, drink. LEDs. One little last bit of wiring that we've got to knock out while we're here is the base LED. Comes with all the wires it needs. We've got to do a little bit of work on it to make sure that we protect it from the carbon and the props, and pretty much just to make it look cool. So we're going to get our pieces out. We're going to do just the chunks we need. Get the LED, a bit of braided nylon. Let me see what else we've got. So, here we go. We're going to need that one chunk of 16mm heat shrink that we just put back in the bag. We need that one, and we're going to go with some 11mm wide. Pretty sure I know which one that is. I've done this enough now, but we're going to double check it on the ruler anyway. So if I just hold it under the ruler and I push it flat, you can see, there we go. We've got the 11mm section right there, so that's that one. And we need this one to be 20mm. I think. Yep, 20mm of that. Perfect, that's my leftovers, 20mm. And this one is about 15mm. Perfect, that'll do. I really only needed 12 for my measurements. And where's the other bit that I needed? No, that's it. I used to do something different. So, because this has got a sticky back to it, we want it to stick to the bottom of the carbon. It's a good idea to get some cleaner, so just some alcohol cleaner or something, and wipe the bottom of the frame off to make sure that this is going to stick for a long time. But it won't stick if you've got this bit on the end, so the first thing I do to this LED is I just take that little bit of heat shrink off the end. I just chuck it. You can put a little bit of glue or something to keep your contacts dry if you fancy, but we'll come back to that. We're going to get rid of this one on this white end as well, so I just kind of pulled that off. I'm just going to cut it off. Done. Alright, for this next section I'm just going to disconnect the JST connectors. Those are keyed, so that's nice and easy to know which way around that goes. You don't have to worry about it. And then I'm gonna forget which way around I'm gonna work this. Okay, everything's in order of process. We're gonna push these through the braid again to space it out, open it up, help it go over the top of the JST connector. As soon as you get that kind of on there, you can remove those and push that through. So that's now on there. We're gonna really protect those wires. This 10mm side, it doesn't really like going over the JST connector. It's a little shy, so again you grab your needle nose pliers and just kind of stretch that out a little bit, give it a bit of a pull, rotate it, give it another bit of a pull, keep going, couple of sides, rotate that, it's all stretchy. Same the other way. The centre's a little bit less stretched out obviously than the two ends, but you'll get it over the top of the JST connector now. Whole lot easier than it was going to go anyway. And I generally end with that around about halfway down. There's a little notch in the side of the JST connector, and I'll kind of go to around about there just to try to make sure that it doesn't, we don't want it fraying again, and we just want to make sure that that's nice and connected. So whilst that's there, we'll just heat gun it. Then the other section, obviously it's a little bigger, you can go over the LED. It can be a little tricky to pull off the sticky on the 3M. after you've heat shrunk this, but it's not that bad. You can kind of work it down to the end and then lift it and pull it out from underneath the heat shrink. Not a big deal. Most important thing for the heat shrink is to protect the braid. We just want to maintain that without it looking crap, to be honest. And I don't want to cover the LEDs up, so I'm always going to line it up right to the edge of the LED, hold that nice and steady, and then I'm going to shrink it on. Very good. Alright, prep the LED out. Now we're going to grab a couple purple cable ties, just 3 of them. Got 3 holes in the base. I'm going to go for 3 cable ties. It's going to come out of this now. I don't really need this to hold it. I'm going to have to start moving it around to show you the rest. Get out of here. Incredible, aren't they? Once you see it in action, you're just like, yeah, I have to have that. It was, yeah. It's about $100 from Amazon, all in, and that's, you know, because you buy it in components, which ones you need. So I bought the base, and then I bought the gripper on the bottom of the table, then I bought this base, and then I bought this. Yeah, about a bill. Okay, so for the LED, one of the most important things is you don't want your zip ties to cover the LEDs, and you want to make sure that this guy is going to be covered by it. A little bit of a process. We're going to jack this back together, and we can take it in stages. It's not terribly difficult. We're just going to kind of hold this over the base, start looking, and for just neatness reasons, I don't want to push these through from this side. I'm always going to push my zip ties through from the top. I'm going to get these out of the way because those don't need to be zip tied at all. We are going to end up zip tying this in here, so I'm not going to do anything too tight. I'm going to drop one in there. I'm going to drop one in the middle in the other side, and I'm going to drop one in here. Alright, so now I've got those done. The LED needs to go down the center of them, and the factors here are: don't cover the LEDs with a zip tie, and make sure that the nylon braid nicely, effectively goes around the back of the frame. So it's just a matter of kind of lining it up, messing around with it and going, oh yeah, that one's going to be there, this is going to be there, that's going to be there. Let me get my bloody big thumbs out of the way, and we'll just kind of mess with it until we get it right. That's pretty much where I want this to end up. I can see my LEDs, my nylon braid's going to go around the back, everything's going to sit pretty cool right there, no worries. So now I'm going to go for the now that I've kind of got my eyeballs on that, I know where I want. It's pretty much that LED right before that zip tie. So I can not care too much if my zip ties can fall out, don't really care. I'm going to unpeel this, and the first thing I'm going to do is stick it. It's super good, it's super sticky. I haven't had one of these come off, and actually just this last weekend, Banano's such a demon pilot that he hit the bottom of a metal post with his LED, and all he did was like peel the glue off the top of the LED with the metal post that he struck. It was pretty impressive. So these things do stick really, really well. I'm just going to look at it top down, make sure I get my my angles right on this one. So give me a second if my noggin gets in the way. I want it to be in the middle, and I want it to look good. So I'm not going to mess this up. There we go. I'm pretty happy with that. That's what we're looking for. I'm going to stick that, give it a nice push, and show you where I'm at. And as you can see, those holes are going to miss that LED, miss the LED, and miss the LED. Now I don't have to worry about the bottom anymore. I can pretty much just turn it over and start troubling myself with this side. So that's going to wrap around quite cool. You can give it a twist, so you don't have to do it flat. You can turn it on its side, and that's going to help get this inside the zip ties. Holds everything down really quite tight. We'll just do one at a time. Start with the back one. push it back up and through. And I can cinch them down after I've got a little bit of play, but we'll just kind of get it going, get it started. First one's there. Alright. Next one's going to go from this side. Back up. Nope, can't see. Back up that hole. Now this enables you, if your LED does ever burn out, this does enable you the nice and easy option without having to unsolder anything. You can just swap your LED out, unpeel it, come around the back, cut a couple zip ties, pull the JST out. Now you replace your LED and just kind of go for it. Gives you more options too. If you want to get fancy with LEDs, you want to do some LEDs under here, you want to run some LEDs down the front, you want to do any crazy LEDs around the back, you've got a JST to be able to play with. You don't have to take the whole thing apart and mess around up here. That's why we really went with the JST down there. Kind of give you guys the options. Everybody loves customizing their gear, so have fun with that. Getting through all of the strength of the pigtail, taking all that strain. Right, I'm just going to cinch those tight now. All's looking good. My LEDs are clear, so I'm going to have all the LEDs showing through. No worries, nice and tight. This wire doesn't go anywhere now, and that's feeling pretty good, pretty secure. Snip these off. One last thing that we're going to go through. Keep one of these. These are my favourite pasters. I'll stick that in there. One last thing I'm going to go for is I'm going to route, or whatever you want to call it, these wires underneath this board. Now I'm just going to double check myself and make sure that I haven't soldered through. I'm going to try to show you guys this one. Let me see if I can just bring that up so I can have a look at that a little better. See if we can't see a little daylight underneath this board. There you go, as you can see I've got the daylight, I haven't soldered anything underneath, there's no blobs, nothing's touching my carbon. So I've actually got a millimetre space to be feeding these wires. These wires are going to be taking power from one of the power regulators up the front. So I am going to have a lot of fun with this, and I'm going to just shove these wires all the way up the front. And you can use your tweezers, kind of guide them through if they start going all squirrely, not coming out where you want. You can already see they're starting to poke out the front. Doesn't really matter where they go. I just didn't want them running over the top of the power board, again for those space reasons. And there we go. That's absolutely perfect. I don't care if they come out this side, that side, you split the wires, really doesn't matter. You're going to be coming off of some voltage regulators that end around about here, but that's later on in the video series. For me, that just kind of keeps it neat, keeps it tidy, keeps it out of the way. Move along. I think that's a good stopping point. We're get onto the naze board and we'll do some more next time. That's what it should look like. That's what you're hoping for. It's pretty clean. It's a pretty nice build. It's minimalistic. You just got to kind of keep your wires tidy and allow you to do what you need to do, and boom, you get a sweet looking LED on the bottom. And of course it's a purple LED because it's Drone X Labs. Got to go for the perps. I have to turn the white balance down, this camera, it's a bit shy. Alright, there we are.
Yeah, thanks for hanging out, dudes. Give the channel a like. Hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, whatever. We'll be here Thursday night, starting 8 p.m. Mountain. Stay until around 10.
Indeed. Peace. See you then.